Hello. Welcome to another video with me. My name is Melissa. I am an illustrator and graphic designer primarily, but I have a background in fashion design and just an immense love for astrology. So you will notice that a lot of my content revolves around combining those elements together. So in today's video, based off of what you all have voted on, I'm going to be talking about astrology representation in the Kibbe body type dramatic classics. And if you're unfamiliar with what I'm referring to, I have a community tab on my channel, and that is where I hold polls of if I am on the fence of what type of video I should be doing next, or if I need a second opinion on something. I tend to refer to the community tab, and my fellow silky moths give me their opinion, or they tell me what's on their mind for that week. For example, when I did my video on signature style, I wanted to know what your signature style was, and I love hearing from you guys. So let's briefly talk about what is a dramatic classic. So when it comes to dramatic classic, out of all the Kibbe body types, any one of the classic family in general is going to have moderate and very symmetrical proportions in their limbs and body structure. So they are not going to feel too tall or too petite. I definitely think they're going to be slightly more on the angular side. If someone has a lot more softness and a lot more curve, then I would refer more to the romantics, soft dramatics, and maybe soft classics. But even soft classics, I think they are a lot more angular than the other two. Also going to have more like straight lines and less curve. I think when it comes to dramatic classics, when I was doing research, I have a lot of muses I'm excited to talk about. Let's reference back to why I like to combine astrology with Kibbe body types. So when it comes to Kibbe body types, I don't at all think it is a perfect system. I like to take it with a grain of salt. I think Kibbe body types is a good starting point if you want to know what garment silhouettes really complement your body structure, bone structure. When it comes to the actual signature style, you can refer back to your personality, your ethos, your overall feel and essence. Your astrological placements, or at least the dominant placements in your chart, offer a really good reference point of what that can look and feel like. Okay, so first dramatic classic representation I'm going to be referring to is Michelle Zauner, who is the lead singer of Japanese Breakfast. So she is an unverified dramatic classic, but in the deep dark depths of Reddit, believe it or not a bad reference when it comes to Kibbe. I think when it comes to Kibbe in general, it's very subjective, and the only person that can actually verify a celebrity is David Kibbe himself. But when it comes to Reddit, it's really nice to hear other people's opinions, and whenever I tend to do that, I look for the majority answer, and I also like to chime in my opinion as well. So when it comes to Michelle Zauner, a lot of people actually say that she is a dramatic classic, and someone on Reddit perfectly said it, that she is a dramatic classic that wears a lot of gamine lines, and a lot of people agree. She does wear a lot of garments which would normally complement a gamine, such as Ariana Grande or Audrey Hepburn, but I don't think it looks bad on Michelle Zauner. I think it really perfectly suits her and her personality and her music. And drawing back to the idea that she is an Aries. So although her full astrological chart is not available to us, we do know that her birthday is March 25th, 1989. So we know that she is an Aries sun. And even though we don't know her rising or Venus, I think she exemplifies Aries energy perfectly. So Aries is known as the baby of the Zodiac. They are first in the chart. So it doesn't matter how old you get, that Aries energy is very prevalent in terms of this youthful essence. And if you watch Michelle Zauner's interview of her Vogue 7 Days outfits, she even says that as she enters her 30s, she really draws back to this youthful essence. And her first outfit that she talks about, she calls it the classic Michelle. And it is this edgy, rebellious, boarding school inspired outfit where she wears pinafores, very exaggerated type of button-ups and knee-high boots, and that is her preference in terms of like a daily or a slightly casual outfit, and even her more performative pieces, she wears exaggerated garments that draw back to her inner childhood. She references different anime, pop culture references, and I think that really goes back to her Aries energy. It's not just this childlike feature. I think there's also a lot of ambition that ties back to what an Aries is. So even though she wears a lot of these fun garments, they really tie back to the music that she is working on at the moment. And as a dramatic classic, even though she's wearing garments that go against her lines, I mean, can you really say it's going against if it is speaking to who she is on the inside? I think she does actually really pull off minimal outfits really well. She shows that in her earlier style, where she wears a lot of structured, all black outfits, which I love, obviously. And she does really look good in that. I think her earlier outfits in her youth really speak to her as a dramatic classic, but her outfits in more recent days really call back to her Aries energy, and it still looks really good on a classic Kibbe. For Taurus energy, we have Jessica Alba. So like Michelle Zauner, she is not verified, but a lot of people speculate that she is of the classic family. I definitely think she is much more of a dramatic classic than a soft classic. There is a lot of sharpness and angularity to her bone structure, whether it is her shoulders and just her overall proportions. There have been some people who argue that she is a flamboyant natural. I argue against that though, because when it comes to the natural family, one of their prominent features is the width in their body, and I don't see that at all. I feel like her overall body is pretty squarish and pretty straight. There is not a lot of width like you would see in, let's say, Angelina Jolie, who has very prominent shoulders. And the people that said that she is a flamboyant natural, they actually say they see it in her face. And when it comes to Kibbe body type, even David Kibbe himself has mentioned that the Kibbe body type only refers to the body. And a lot of people agree with that and would refer to Kitchener essences when it comes to the face. In my opinion, I think she's a dramatic classic Kibbe, but has prominent natural Kitchener essence. And going back to her being a very prominent Taurus, like she has so much Taurus in her chart. I think the whole idea of what natural looks like in Kibbe, Kitchener essence, I think that also is embodied in Taurus energy in general. There's something very natural and down to earth about Taurus or even earth sign energy, but something that I think people often mistaken for those key terms is that they sacrifice quality of life things, and that is not at all true. Tauruses are very indulgent in quality of life things. They don't sacrifice that at all, but they do favor a natural outlook on things. And I think what that means more so is that in terms of aesthetically, there's not a lot of superficiality to that. And you could definitely see that in Jessica Alba's aesthetic. She's actually known for being this girl next door look of the early 2000s and late 90s. I also recommend you looking into her Architectural Digest interview. I think her Taurus energy is not just evident in the details that she wears or the garments, it's also shown in her home as well. I think also this whole idea of being natural is in her overall ethos, and it just backs up her Taurus energy because she is the owner and founder of Honest Beauty, which whole ethos is this toxic free, chemical free, and very clean type of beauty. And I think it overall speaks to her signature look and style of being this girl next door look with very natural feel and look. Okay, so for Gemini representation, we have silver screen actress Jenna Rollins. So although she is referred to as like one of the old Hollywood era actresses, she actually has had a very long and vast career. She was in a variety of roles. She was in The 7-Year Itch. She was in Alfred Hitchcock's TV series, but she was also in modern day movies. She was the older version of Rachel McAdams' character in The Notebook. She was also in the horror movie The Skeleton Key. And it just goes to show her Gemini energy is very prevalent. She's very adaptable. She is very talented in terms of playing a variety of characters and roles. Her Gemini is in her sun, which is her overall look and feel. Sorry, not look. Look would be more so rising, but I think her Gemini feel spills into her public image, which is her midheaven, and she does have a Gemini midheaven. She also has Gemini in Mercury, which is the sign of communication. And I think with this combination of so much Gemini in her chart, it's going to evidently spill into her style and look as well. She looks amazing in structured and tailored pieces that were also very prevalent of her time, but she is also good at switching into a more sensual role. She's also good at playing a more classic piece, also good at dressing in more classic, very modest garments. And I think when it comes to Geminis, a lot of people mistaken the Gemini duality as being two-faced. I think that's a very negative look on it. I think it's very important to actually have this aspect of duality, especially if you're in the limelight or if you're in Hollywood. Geminis in general, there's this self-assuredness and almost a lot of self-awareness when it comes to Geminis, very adaptable, going from someone from her personal life, but also being able to have this socialite career and old money look that was very prevalent for the time, but also was able to transition into modern day style, modern day acting as well. So for Cancer energy, we have newly verified Lizzie Kaplan. So she is verified, so there's no arguing there. She has a lot of Cancer in her chart. It is her rising sun and north node. So like I mentioned with Jenna Rollins, when it is your sun, it is your overall feel, your overall essence that you just give off. But to back it up, it is also her rising. So it is going to be in her outward appearance. I feel like when it comes to rising sign traits, they tend to refer to the face. I think there is also this overall feel and aesthetic that comes with that, but it's also her north node. So they say that your south node is referring to your past life and your north node is where you are going towards. And the fact that she has Cancer in all of this, it's almost like she is embodied in the deep depths of what it means to be a Cancer. So when it comes to water signs in general, I think they are very natural in dark aesthetics, whether it is intentional or not. I think Scorpio energy is like that dark femme fatale look, like Angelica Houston, but when it comes to Cancer energy, it's a lot softer, but there is that allure and a bit of darkness in there and still very oceanic feeling. Think Liv Tyler. I think if you just don't look at their acting roles or their personality, but just like editorial photo shoots and like how they poise themselves, there is actually some similarities of facial essence between Liv Tyler and Lizzie Kaplan. I think Lizzie Kaplan really looks natural in smoky eye looks, which is very akin to that Cancer feeling. In terms of her being a dramatic classic, she is verified, but we can actually see that she looks very natural in tailored, structured pieces. But I think she also pulls off very satiny, very dreamy, ethereal type of fabrications as well with that Cancer energy, especially in black or dark blues and navies, which is very Cancer-esque. I wish she delved deeper into a darker aesthetic. It actually looks very natural on her. She played Janet in Mean Girls perfectly for a reason, and when she plays these very sharp-tongued roles, it feels very much her. And I think if she, on terms of a personal style, if she like dived in deeper into a dark aesthetic, like dark lipsticks, and like I mentioned, the smoky eye look looks so good on her, I think that would speak very in terms of her dark aesthetic. You can kind of see it already in some of her editorials, some of her tailored pieces that she wears. She tends to wear a lot of black. But I think Lizzie Kaplan, overall, she is beautiful. And I think she is a good muse if you are a dramatic classic. And also if you are looking for something of like a soft allure type of style. Okay, so for Leo energy, we have dramatic classic Jackie O. She is verified and she tends to be the poster child whenever dramatic classics are referred to. It is her sun, Mercury, and her midheaven. I think I have referred to Jackie O or Jackie Kennedy whenever I talk about Scorpio risings. And to be quite honest, I can definitely see Scorpio rising in like the look in her eyes and like her dark hair and just like some of her feel. But I think her Leo energy is a lot more prevalent. She has a lot of it in her chart. I think because what the person that we know as Jackie Kennedy is like the first lady, almost like American royalty in a way, and that plays perfectly well into her midheaven. I wonder too that if her being this iconic first lady has anything to do with her having a Leo midheaven. Leo has a very radiating, loud energy, and midheaven being the public image plays perfectly into that. Her look is so often emulated. So like when Marilyn Monroe wore that Jackie Kennedy look, it was just so obvious I was referring to. Ariana Grande's music video Positions, it's funny that she was referencing Jackie O or Jackie Kennedy's look in her Positions video where she is playing Madam President, but the outfits that she was wearing, it didn't look like, oh, Ariana Grande in a tailored outfit. It was like, oh, Ariana Grande wearing a Jackie Kennedy look. It's kind of just not surprising that her look is to be emulated. There's something about Leo energy and fame and prevalence in the public eye. When I was doing a series on artists, like painters, a lot of famous artists were Leo risings, like Andy Warhol, Frida Kahlo, Pablo Picasso. And it's almost like whenever people with prominent Leo energy become famous, it's just not surprising. It's just kind of like there is this natural pathway for them. As a dramatic classic, as I mentioned, she exemplifies the tailored look. She looks absolutely chic in minimal details. She doesn't need a lot of pattern. And even when she wears very bold colors, like the pink suit that she is known for, or even some of the mint greens that she wears, in these solid colors, and it creates this monotone look, it still looks very sharp and chic on her. I think when it comes to dramatic classics, I mean the whole point of this video is to show that there's a variety of looks that a dramatic classic can look and can refer to, but it's just going to have a different effect. And I think your astrology placements really play into that of what is going to feel natural. But when it comes to classics in general, I think what Jackie Kennedy wears is a good example of what just naturally looks good on a classic. So closed necklines, very old money look, split necklines. I refer to Michelin Pitt a lot in terms of if you want to go for like a very sensual retro look, but for more of a Jackie Kennedy look, I would actually look to Unique Vintage and different retro reproduction stores that offer what you're going to be looking for is called, it's like a split neckline or even like a minimal boat neckline where it's still close and it kind of goes shoulder to shoulder and is a very 1960s look. I think when it comes to classics in general, the 1960s and late 1950s outfits are going to look really good on you. Okay, so for Virgo representation, we have Shannon Doherty, who is one of my favorite muses. She was in Charmed, the 90s show about witches. She was also in Beverly Hills. Overall, a great style icon. She is not often referred to as a dark aesthetic style muse, but I actually think she exemplifies a lot of great dark aesthetic looks. She is not outwardly grunge, but I think if you're going for a soft grunge look, she is a good style icon in terms of that. It's not all the way rebellious or all the way edgy. She is a Virgo rising. There's still going to be a bit of sharpness, a bit of that perfectionism in there, so it's not going to be all the way grunge where it's super edgy, but it's definitely there in the coloration, the 90s makeup look, and also there's going to be this slight prim and proper overall feeling, and I think that's why it's a bit of a soft grunge. I think Virgos also pull off dark academia looks as well. So she is not a verified soft dramatic. However, a lot of people speculate that she is. Just like Jessica Alba, some have argued that she may be a flamboyant natural, but I don't think there's a lot of width in her. It's very straight, it's very squarish, still very symmetrical and proportionate, just like you would expect of a classic. She also has a lot of angularity in her bone structure overall, And that's how I got to dramatic classic. Also, someone on Reddit, thank you Reddit, mentioned that she looks like a modern day Suzanne Plachette, who is a verified and an iconic dramatic classic. That kind of backs up the argument that she may be a dramatic classic. Going back to this whole idea of her being a dark aesthetic icon, and it's mainly in the 90s, but even now I think she still dresses very complimentary of a dramatic classic lines. So even when she wears slightly edgier pieces, whether it is her leather jackets or 90s skirt looks or even like a bit of a V neckline, it still is minimal details, and she kind of shows that minimal details can have like a darker take on it or a grungier take on it. And if you favor that 90s grunge look but you are a classic and you're scared to go like overly done with that grunge look, she is a good inspiration in terms of that. Speaking of Suzanne Plachette, she is our Libra representation. We did not plan that they were back to back, but it all worked out perfectly. So Suzanne Plachette is a verified dramatic classic. She is often referred to whenever David Kibbe mentions dramatic classic examples. In terms of Libra energy, she is a Libra rising and moon. So we have it in her outward appearance, but you have it in your moon, which is your subconscious and kind of like who you are behind closed doors. So when it comes to your style and your moon sign, I think they can go hand in hand. Not all the time, since your moon sign is like your deep core, who you are, and not everyone is comfortable with showing with who that is. But with Suzanne Plachette having that in her rising and moon, I feel like that Libra energy is just kind of like well-rounded and just like all around in there. When it comes to Libra energy, they are an air sign, so there's this air of effortless and elegance that just come naturally to Libras. Whenever I read about Suzanne Plachette, a lot of people refer to her husky voice. I think it's just very seductive and it is a trademark to her. I think whenever she is in these photo shoots, she does wear a lot of tailored pieces, but it's done in an elegant way. She is unafraid to show a bit of skin. She has that free spirit energy as well. But overall, if I were to describe her overall style, it is this effortless allure and effortlessly chic look, with a bit of underlying tailored look. Next, we have Scorpio Energy, and we have Karen O of the Yeah Yeahs representing. I have talked a lot about Karen O on my TikTok. I have referred to her as an unverified dramatic classic, but a lot of people actually say that she is most likely a dramatic classic. Angularity in her bone structure is very evident. There's a lot of symmetry to her. Some have argued that she is dramatic. I can see that because there is this air of like tallness to her. If you compare her to other dramatics, that's where I kind of step back and think maybe she's more of a dramatic classic. It's kind of on the fence of using her for Sagittarius or Scorpio energy. If you look at her chart, there is an even distribution of both. I think she actually exemplifies both, and she is a good example of someone with a Scorpio Sagittarius combination. In terms of her Scorpio, it is her Sun and Venus. I have mentioned before, Venus is a good way of finding out your ideal aesthetic. I decided to go with Scorpio energy for her because although she has a lot of like grungy punk elements and rebellious nature that I refer to with Sagittarius, she still is a very good dark aesthetic muse, and she's even known for it. She is an indie, I would say like she's a multi-genre musician, but I would say she's like an indie punk rock icon. And she looks amazing in tailored, sharp outfits. And the pieces that she wears, like you wouldn't even automatically think tailored, like you think blazers and suits, but she wears a lot of like structured dresses, structured pieces, and then she pairs it with these electric colors. Her hair, her signature hair, which is like my friends and I call it like the iconic bowl cut look, or like a bowl cut that you actually like and wouldn't make fun of, or her like bangs in general. I love it. I love it so much. Very complimentary of the dramatic side of dramatic classic. It's a very angular, sharp look that I don't think a lot of people can pull off. When it comes to Scorpio energy in general, like I mentioned with Cancers and often Pisces, there's this ethereal energy, but a bit on a darker side, and she shows that a lot in much more of her performative pieces. Overall, I think Karen O is an amazing icon. Also, she is one of the few Asian representations I had growing up, so she's very, very special to me. She is a great icon if you are looking for someone with a dark aesthetic, but someone who shows that dark aesthetic with electric colors. She also is a good representation for Scorpio and even Sagittarius vibe. So for Sagittarius, speaking of, we have Zoe Saldana. It is her moon sign, and like I mentioned, when it comes to style and your moon sign, it's a little tricky because that's like who you are on the inside. I actually think we can kind of see it though with Zoe. It comes to the whole idea of a zodiac being a free spirit. I do refer to Libra a lot of that, but I think Sagittarius is, on a flip of a coin, another example of a free spirit in the zodiac. When it comes to Sagittarius, they are adventurous, they are very carefree. We can kind of see it in some of the clothing that she wears. It's very elegant, it's very details, but in a very alluring way. And in Vanity Fair actually said that it's actually very similar to Audrey Hepburn, where although she's an actress, she has that background as a dancer. So whenever she poses in red carpet looks, it's very poised and she knows what she's doing. It's effortless and elegant. Also, when it comes to Sagittarius in general, they're very adventurous and bold, and we see that a lot more so in her red carpet looks. And then off carpet, it's still very effortless. I think that is the overall look of Zoe Saldana. It's very effortless and carefree, but still elegant and chic. So for Capricorn Energy, we have Megan Fox. I believe she is verified. A great example of a dramatic classic. She has a lot of sharpness and angularity in her proportions, and she's actually known for having these sharp features in general. I do believe she is a dramatic classic in Kibbe, but I think she also has a dramatic essence of Capricorn Energy. It is her rising sign. I actually have used her as a Capricorn icon on my TikTok whenever I was talking about rising and Venus sign combinations. She pulls off tailored looks well, and she has actually mentioned that whenever her stylist puts her in these blazer-esque outfits or button-ups mixed with streetwear looks, it's actually her favorite. I think Megan Fox is actually very open about having a stylist, so a lot of the outfits she is seen wearing is often chosen for her. In terms of the pieces that she favors, I have noticed they tend to have a more sharper and tailored look, and I think Capricorn energy and a dramatic classic energy really go hand in hand with one another. Overall, I do think I like the looks that she wears, and some of her looks is a good mix. Capricorn rising and underlying Scorpio energy. So for Aquarius, we have Anna May Wong. She is not verified, but it is almost like unarguable that she is a dramatic classic. I would say though, just like I mentioned with Megan Fox, she does have very sharp features in her face, so she may have a dramatic facial essence, and she is an Aquarius rising. So let me talk about her being a dramatic classic first. So although she is unverified, she wears and is almost known for wearing these sharp lines. And anyone who is of the classic family and argues and does not favor these super structured looks, I think Anna May Wong shows a very different perspective of how these sharp lines can look, and they can look very not boring. And I wouldn't say her looks are super minimal, but they're not extremely in your face. I think her more theatrical, performative pieces are, because it is a costume, but there are pieces that she wears that just speak in volumes and really work with the length of her body and very sleek fabrication. I think sleek fabrication is often mistaken for just like business attire type of fabric, like slacks, herringbone, but she shows that it could be done in more satiny fabrics. In terms of her being an Aquarius rising, when it comes to Aquarius energy in general, I feel like Aquariuses are very good at having fun. Elements that go into their garments are not as loud as like a Leo energy would when it comes to the garment details or the embellishments. Aquarius rising, it's there, but it's a lot more subtle, and it's very clever and witty how some of those elements are integrated into their garments. I feel like Anime Wong, there is just not a bad photo of her. It's very theatric and performative, and I know she is an actress, and that's very intentional. The biggest thing about her Aquarius energy being prevalent is she knows to have fun, and but done in a very witty, with a lot of intention in terms of what she wears and how she poses it. Okay, so last but absolutely not least, we have a Pisces rising, Felicia Rashad. She is another dramatic classic that is verified and is often referred to whenever people are wondering about their own Kibbe body type. I know for a fact she has a lot of iconic looks when she was in The Cosby Show, because so I grew up watching The Cosby Show and A Different World, and she is in that show. And so she plays Claire Huxtable in The Cosby Show. And although that is a fictional character, a lot of the garments that she wore was super complimentary of her. And I think a lot of the outfits that she wears, a lot of the icons that I have mentioned have been 50s, 60s icons. I'm really happy to show Felicia Rashad as someone who has a lot of iconic 80s looks and how to wear if you're really into that 80s aesthetic, but with a dramatic classic Kibbe. I think it's actually very interesting. A lot of the silhouettes that she wears are often what is recommended for the natural family. She wears a lot of drapey silhouettes, a lot of garments with folds, and even in her modern day looks of like what she wears today, she wears a lot of pieces that drape and almost envelop her. And I love that because it shows a different perspective of how you can dress as a dramatic classic. I think if you want a more relaxed look, you can refer to her 80s looks and even looks now. As a fellow Pisces rising, I'm very proud to have her in the Pisces rising family, and she is also an amazing dramatic classic icon. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, I hope you have a great week. Bye!